I just wanted to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming out on a Tuesday. The weather was a little scary there for a minute. We weren't sure if it was going to rain us out or not, but I'm glad it didn't. By all means, feel free to move back into the shade. I will not be offended at all if you guys start slowly creeping your way back into the shade, because it's probably going to get warm. If you signed up to speak with us today, I'd really appreciate it if you come forward. So anybody who I spoke with or messaged via Facebook, my name is Elizabeth Ballou. I'm an organizer for the Texas Handmaids. So thank you. So if anybody, if I talk to you on Facebook or anything, please come up, and that way you're ready to go and we can get our speakers done. And once that's done, you know, you guys are more than welcome to go inside and raise some hell. So.
And if any of the speakers would be willing to speak inside, once they come up here, you could ask them.
Yeah, we're going to try and keep it out here because we have it set up out here for right now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Hey everyone! Who's ready to fight? That doesn't sound like you're ready. Be loud. Who's ready to fight? When our rights are under attack, what do?
Stand up, fight back!
Louder! When our rights are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back! What do we want? Healthcare! What do we want?
Healthcare!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Healthcare!
When do we want it?
Now!
If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it,
Shut it down!
if we don't get it,
Shut it down!
if we don't get it.
Shut it down!
Okay, now you know the chant. Now let's do it right. They gotta hear us all the way in there. Let's go. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? If we don't get it, if we don't get it, if we don't get it, yeah. When I say women, you say power. Women! Women! When I say queer, you say power. Queer! Queer! When I say immigrant, you say power. Immigrant! Immigrant! When I say youth, you say power. Youth! Youth! Women! Women! Yeah! ¡Se puede! ¡Se puede! ¡Se puede! I know it's not your language, but say it like you mean it. It means yes, we can. ¡Se puede! ¡Se puede! ¡Sí se 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 puede! Let's try one more. Oh, you want this to se puede? Yo, we're getting a request over here. Let's do si se puede. ¡Se puede! ¡Se puede! ¡Se puede! ¡Sí se 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 puede!
¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede! ¡Sí se puede!
Barbie.
This is Barbie, y'all. I want that Barbie. All right, if you guys could make a quick hole right down the middle. Here come our handmaids.
Alright, can you put your number on there? Do you text? Oh yeah. Okay. Then I'll text. Love your pajamas.
Oh my God, I know.
I have the protest jacket that's always picking. Yeah.
And while the handmaids are walking up, I'd like everybody to take this time and let's have a moment of silence for all of the women who have died in childbirth, the women who have died due to botched abortions, the women who have died just providing life because they had no choice. All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for that moment of silence. Thank you. So, my name is Elizabeth Ballou, and I'm an organizer here for the Texas Handmaids. And we came out this morning for a day of reproductive justice. So we started our morning here at the legislative briefing that the AFIA Center put on this morning on the state of Black women and maternal health. That is a very, very important topic. If you are not a part of that conversation, you need to be. So I would really appreciate it if everybody would have a good look at that, their website, their Facebook, the AFIA Center. Again, very important topic. So first of all, I'd like to call out anybody who is a registered voter deputy. Anybody in the crowd? All right, so if you are not registered to vote, the person over here who is waving, please come and see her, and the person back there who's waving, please see them. The only way we're really gonna take care of this is if we all get our asses to the polls. So make it happen. All right, thanks. So first off, I'd really like to, I'd like to welcome everybody out for coming today. Like I said before, this is a Tuesday afternoon, you know, so we're just here to raise hell. We're gonna get through our speeches, and then if you guys wanna go inside and visit any of your legislatures, by all means, go in there, make it happen. All right, so I'm going to start this one out. So this is really important to me. This topic is very important to me, just the topic of choice in general. I'm a mother. My son was born in 2013, and back then, I had two doulas and a husband, all white, in the delivery room with me, and my son still went into distress 4 times. Only then, after 6 hours and 4 times of going into distress, did the doctors finally say, all right, I think it's time for a C-section. I feel like if everybody in my room had not been white, and if they had been brown, that I probably wouldn't be standing here today, and neither would my son. He wouldn't be at school right now finishing his kindergarten year. So it's important that the medical community listen to us as women. It's important that legislature listens to us as women. We know what we're talking about when we tell you things are wrong with our body. We know the choices we're making are right for our bodies, and they're right for us because they're ours. This is my body. I'm making the choices for it. And not everybody has to agree with it, you know. I chose to have a kid. You may choose not to. You may choose to go out and live a life of amazingness and not want to think about having a child. Or you may be like me and want to have a child. But I also want the opportunity to raise my child in a society that is going to treat him fairly. I want the opportunity to be looked at fairly. I don't want to be in the mall with my friends who maybe are white and people look at me and think I'm the nanny. I want them to look at me like I am a mother, because it's what I am. So I'm just urging all of you, please, please, please become very familiar with the legislation that's being passed. If you go inside, I want you guys to, I do want you to go inside and talk to, you know, who represents you. You know, in the last meeting that we were just at, it was said that they rent this house. They don't own it. We own this house. So let's make our voices heard. So again, if you are not registered to vote, I'm gonna need you to do that today, okay, so you can vote. And make sure you know all of your city council people, make sure you know your local government, and make sure you are aware of what's going on so we can stop this slaughter on women before it even really gets started. All right, if you've signed up to speak with us today, I did have a physician who had signed up to speak with us. If he is here in the crowd, I would love for him to come forward. He was going to speak with us about SB 22. He is here. No. Okay, he's not here. All right, so our next speaker is going to be Jen Wireman. And she's just somebody who contacted us as the Handmaids, and she had some important words that she wanted to share with us today. So if you'll give your full attention, everybody, this is Jen.
Hey guys. My name is Jennifer Wireman. I'm 36 years old. I have not had an abortion. I have never been pregnant. I have never wanted to be pregnant. But I'm not lucky. I am grateful for the affordability and accessibility of reproductive health care services from Planned Parenthood. I was 17 years old and my period was late. My best friend and I went to the Walmart and got an EPT test. Thankfully, it was negative, but I knew that I never wanted to feel that fear again. So I busted out the yellow pages, because this was the 90s, and I called my local Planned Parenthood to make an appointment. I was scared to death when I drove through those iron gates, and fortunately there were no protesters there that day. I went inside and was immediately put at ease. The nurse practitioner talked me through the exam. She was gentle and caring. I got free birth control pills that day. Yeah. It was a very positive experience. I told all my girlfriends about my experience at Planned Parenthood. I helped them make appointments. I drove them to the clinic, and none of my friends ended up pregnant in high school. But we were not lucky. This wasn't luck. We received comprehensive, compassionate, affordable, accessible reproductive health care from our local Planned Parenthood. So I spent my entire 20s working in the service industry right here in Austin, Texas. And as you may know, bartenders and servers do not get health insurance. So this was pre-ACA, right? So Planned Parenthood was there for me for all of my healthcare needs. where nurse practitioners were the only medical professionals I saw for a decade, and Planned Parenthood does amazing work. So y'all know reproductive health care isn't just for cis women, right? All of us need to get checked for STIs. All of us need cancer screenings. Our trans brothers and sisters also need comprehensive, compassionate, affordable, accessible reproductive health care. And we all deserve full respect and bodily autonomy from our medical professionals. So these oppressive bans on reproductive rights being passed all over this nation, they're not only, I skipped a page. No, I didn't. They're not only regressive, misogynistic, and disgusting, but they are unconstitutional, y'all. Keep that in mind. These laws are unconstitutional. Now, I personally may believe that any elected official who knowingly passes a law that is unconstitutional should be immediately impeached. They literally took an oath to uphold the Constitution, right? But maybe that's just me. But what it does mean is that the fight is not over, y'all. We are here, and we will not go quietly into the night. We are here to stand with and to fight for our sisters and our brothers in Georgia and in Alabama and in Ohio and in Missouri and in Poland and in Australia and anywhere they try to take away our human right to make medical decisions for our lives and our bodies. So y'all know this is happening right here in Texas too, right? These assholes right behind me, this party of small government, they want to prohibit our cities and our municipalities from funding comprehensive reproductive health care through Planned Parenthood. They don't care about women.
No, they don't.
They don't care about the poor.
No.
They don't care about babies.
No.
They don't even care about the unborn. Or they would have expanded Medicaid through Obamacare. They don't care about you, and they don't care about me. But you know what? We don't care about their job security. And every Texas state senator and representative who votes against us, our health care, and our right to bodily autonomy, every single one of them, we are voting those motherfuckers out in 2020 and in 2022. Healthcare is a human right, and it is my body, my choice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Woo! All right, so I'd actually like to welcome up our good buddy Chaz. He's from the Austin Justice Coalition.
So I did not plan on speaking. I was just coming to the Capitol and they asked me to speak. I think this sign says it all about what I have to say. So real quick, for the people that don't know, Austin Justice Coalition is a black-led organization, predominantly black women. We have 5 black women in leadership, a beautiful guy from Brazil, and then me. So of course this is a very important issue. Because my good friend Rachel, who's here from New York, summed it up beautifully earlier. We have men in power making decisions about women, and most men in leadership or not don't have the most basic understanding of female anatomy.
Ain't that
right? So it's beyond me that we have men, predominantly men, making decisions about women when they don't understand the woman anatomy or ladies anatomy. They don't understand that women are dying from just having birth, when we talk about the maternal mortality right here in Texas, that is really an epidemic in the black female community. They think reproductive rights only means abortions when it's so much more than that. So, I mean, I have a couple quick things to say to them to get out of here. To all my men in the audience, all the quote-unquote good guys, raise your hands. So, it is important for all the men in the audience and people that identify as men that you do not allow these ladies to fight by themselves. This is not just, hold on. This is not just a woman's fight. This is not just a fight for women's rights. It's our duty, not only as men, as Americans, as humans, to fight for one another. So for any man, if you really believe, I see you with your signs, I see you with your pink shirts. If you really mean and you're really true about what you're talking about, you're gonna demand that your colleagues, which are predominantly white older men in power, you're gonna hold them accountable. You're not just gonna come to the rally. You're not just gonna like the poster on Facebook. You're not just gonna retweet the things from the Handmaid's Tale and all these things. You're gonna actively fight this fight. Because when you really sit back and think about this, this is gross what's happening to our society. It's really gross what's happening to our society. Handmaid's Tale is coming to life, and I'll also say this: it's probably been that for real for a lot of communities, but now it's becoming more broadly accepted. You know why? Because we're not actively engaged enough to hold these people accountable. So I agree with my sister that just left. In 2020, we need people that actually represent us. Like I said, this sums it up for me. I don't want to say it because I think we have kids walking around. But men, just shut the fuck up. So ladies, I love you all. I want to fight for you all. Your body, your choice.
All right, guys, thanks so much. And please visit austinjustice.org for the Austin Justice Coalition. Thank you so much for him coming out last minute and speaking for us. All right, we have another speaker, Julia. She's from the Student Empowerment Association. So this young lady was one of the women who shut down the bridge for the Kavanaugh. Thanks so much. So I'm going to hand this over to her. Get a little youth. I'm not as young as I look.
Hey, thanks for coming out today. So to start off, I had no idea that I was going to be doing this until like 5 minutes ago, so I don't know how well this is going to sound. But I'm 17 years old. I'm a junior at Austin High School. And legislation like that is being passed in Alabama and other states directly affects me, my siblings, my peers, and our future. Students my age, and not just women, non-binary people, trans men and boys, and anyone with a uterus are being forced to carry babies they don't want, to carry their rapists' children, and they, in some of the more conservative states, are being put to death for refusing. And I come to a lot of these rallies and a lot of these events, and one of the things that I hear a lot is, this is bad. But one of the things I don't hear a lot is what actually to do. And so a couple of the things that I want to bring to your attention are recognize trans men and non-binary people as also being affected by this legislation. Recognize things like black women are 3 times more likely to die from childbirth than white women. And I don't know what we're doing about that, but it's gotta be something. Hold hospitals accountable for reporting the maternal deaths in their wards, which they're not doing and no one's talking about. Support bills like House Bill 744, which takes Medicaid from 60 days after birth to 12 months. Support legislation like that has passed in Oregon in the past year that gives everyone reproductive health care, including cancer screenings, STI screenings, abortions, and a whole other number of things with zero copay. Legislation like that is what reduces teen pregnancy. It is what ends up reducing abortions, and it ends up making everyone's lives better. And then most of all, come 2020, please vote. A lot of my peers and friends are going to be turning 18 right before the Texas primaries, and we are all registering on our birthdays. I am turning 18 in 23 days, 3 hours, and 34 minutes. And I am also registering on my birthday. If we can do it, y'all can. It's not that hard. You Google it. Thank you for coming out today.
Give her a big hand of applause. That is our future. We need more of that. All right, you guys. So next I'd like to, is Cherish here? I'd like to bring up Cherish if she's here. Cherish. She's there, she is. Yay! All right, so she's a nurse. She's going to speak with us today.
Oh, now I just closed my page. Hi, I'm Cherish Caseberg. I'm Cherish Caseberg. I'm Cherish Caseberg. I am 40 years old. I am a nurse for the last 20 years. I am an herbalist, and I own Stellar Effects Wellness here in Austin. And I had my first child at 16. And I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks before my 16th birthday. I went to a Planned Parenthood. They did not try to talk me into an abortion. They actually gave me all my options. They helped me not feel so afraid. They gave me resources and all the things that I would need. And ultimately, I chose to keep my son. Why a woman who never had an abortion, even under those circumstances, would be here today is because it's about the choice. I had a choice. Women 20 years before my birth fought very, very hard so that I could have that choice. And I made that choice. And the difference between being forced to do something and choosing to do something is huge. When my son was born, he was colicky. I don't think I slept for about 1.5 years. And while he screamed and cried, sometimes I would also scream and cry. But I couldn't be mad about the situation that I was in. And let me tell you, it wasn't a good one. I've been homeless. I've been hungry. I was kicked out of my home. All my friends were children, so how much help are they really? That's your support system when you're 16, is a lot of other 16-year-olds. So I was fortunate. I was very, very blessed by a really loving community and parents of really great friends and stuff like that. A lot of people helped us along the way. A lot of people are the reason that we made it. He's 24 years old. We made it, you know? But I couldn't be angry no matter how distraught I was, no matter the situation. I couldn't be angry because I chose. And when I chose, and you look at this screaming baby and you have no respite of any kind ever, you realize that it isn't his fault. This is a choice that you made. You vowed to keep him and do everything that you could possibly do to make it as good as you can possibly make it. And so you can't be mad. Instead, you work harder because you chose this. And now you owe it to him to do everything you can to make it better. So if you don't choose though, how angry are women then? You know, they say that 25% of women have suffered sexual assault. I beg to differ. That's 25% that actually talked about it. That's not all the women that don't talk about it, you know? And they say that abortion is less than 2% of rape and incest. I doubt that too. How many women really go into the abortion clinic and talk about incest or talk about the fact that they were raped? They go there and they get what's needs to be done, and they don't talk about it, some of them, to anyone ever their whole lives. So those statistics are inaccurate, and it's just a bunch of bullshit. It's just a bunch of paperwork and whatever. They have no idea what goes on for any of us. I can tell you, between 20 years of nursing and 40 years as a woman, it is way more than 25% of women that get raped. And there is way more incest that takes place than we know about. And so I feel like we have to be here today. We have to make sure they don't take away our rights. Make sure they don't take away our contraception. Make sure they don't take away our education. You know, Planned Parenthood is where you get screened for STDs when you have no money. And from a woman who's been homeless, I had no money. So Planned Parenthood is where you go. Planned Parenthood is also where a lot of women go who do have insurance and money, because they've been going there for years and they trust the people there. And for all women, that's really important, that you trust who you're talking to and you trust who you see. It's a very personal thing. Your health care is personal. I don't know why the government ever thought that they should be allowed to decide for women or anyone what's best for them, their lives and their bodies, but the government has got to stay out. They have to stay out of people's decisions to do what's best for themselves. Just like we can't stop criminals from being criminals, we can only just catch them and arrest them. They can't prevent women from making the mistakes that they think they're preventing. We don't need them to be our dad. We don't need them to guide us. We need them to uphold the Constitution, the law, and to keep their point of views to themselves, because point of views are very different from facts. It is our bodies, it's our lives, and it's our choice. And it has been for 20 years, and it needs to stay that way.
Thank you very much. All right, y'all, the sign game is really excellent. Make sure everybody gets a look at everybody's signs, because they're fantastic. So also, right now I'd like to welcome up Stephanie Martin. She's an organizer also with me with the Texas Handmaids. It's smoke and mirrors, y'all. There's just 3 of us running this thing. So I'm gonna hand this over to her.
Hello. My name is Stephanie Martin, and I am going to tell you some boring stories. These are some boring ass stories. When I was 23, I had an abortion, like 1 in 3 of women in my generation. Not a fantastic story. Shouldn't be, right? But there is such stigma around women controlling what happens in their own bodies, and that's what we're here today for, right? When I was 23, I was pregnant in Kansas, where Operation Rescue was from. Boo! These are the people who stand outside abortion clinics screaming at women. Always white men. It's always white men. It's always white men. This is before internet, so I called in for an appointment. There were only 2 providers in Kansas because one had been murdered. One had been murdered. Look it up. Dr. George, I believe his name was Tillerson. Thank you, Tillerson. He was shot in his church in front of his family on a Sunday morning by an anti-choice zealot. Pro-life, right? So the wait list was about a month. If you don't want to be pregnant, a month seems like eternity. So I decided to take myself to Kansas City, an hour away, for an abortion. No one was protesting there. I didn't know, I just got the number and the address, from my neighborhood clinic. I got there, it was in a predominantly black neighborhood. No one was protesting there. All protesting at the college town clinic. Interesting. Okay. That was my story. I mean, it was zip, it was done, right? That's how it should always be. Well, I did have a 3-day waiting period, and they did make me look at literature, but I didn't read it. In Texas, we have the same thing. Women are required to read literature that is full of lies. It says abortion causes breast cancer. Still don't have breast cancer. Abortion causes infertility. I've got a 7-year-old. Abortion causes addiction. I mean, I like a beer, but come on. I am gainfully employed. Abortion causes what else? Oh, suicide. Abortion causes suicide. Nice try, but no. Ridiculous. This is the state of things, and I think we've seen it, reaching its zenith here. Here's another boring story. I'm a mom. Most of us will choose to become mothers in our lifetime. I was induced on the day I was due. I now realize shouldn't have agreed to that. After being in labor for 27 hours, I was induced. I delivered my son. I was alone. 2 weeks after I gave birth, my husband was going to college in Corpus Christi getting his master's in counseling. I was by myself with the baby blues, as they used to be called, crying on my baby's head, and then crying. I cried on my baby's head. I cried on his head. I'm scarred him for life. All of these situations are cruel and inhumane. Women throughout the birth process should be supported. We have excellent organizations that provide this care. I would encourage you, if you're thinking about becoming a parent soon, please hook up with a doula, someone who can advocate for you, particularly if you're African American, because African American women in Texas are 243% more likely to die in childbirth or the year postpartum. 243% more likely. I think we know what causes that, and it's institutional racism. There is some good legislation that got brought up in this session, never made it out of committee, never made it out of calendars. You need to contact your representative and your state senator and tell them they need to pass that shit. Go to texashandmaids.org and we have a list of the bill numbers. Check that out under resources. Today's the last day. Honestly, it'll probably die, sir. It'll probably die. Tell them you care about maternal mortality. A few years ago, whenever the state defunded Planned Parenthood by not accepting the Medicaid expansion, they tried to push this parallel dimension called Healthy Texas Women's Network. Boo, indeed. You need to Google this shit, Healthy Texas Women's Network. So if you're on Medicaid, they tell you, oh, you simply go to the website and find yourself a provider. Only a lot of the numbers are bunk. One of the numbers goes to a Subway restaurant. We found numbers that go to orthopedists, dry cleaners, people who are not obese, or just disconnected. It's all a sham, because I don't give a shit if women live or die. Because 80% of the legislators in the building today are male. 80%. We are never going to have the sanctity of our lives preserved by anyone in that building until we start electing women. My rep is up there working today. People will tell you Williamson County is red. No, they're talking about 1980. I live in Williamson County, in Austin, Williamson County, fake Austin, as I like to call it. We flipped 2 of the 3 House seats to blue in Wilco. We have two gentlemen up there, James Tellerico and Representative John Busey, who are voting for choice and for Texas women. And y'all, there's no secret to it. We did it by beating feet. I don't care if the Democratic Party is too gross for you. Suck it up. Suck it up and volunteer for pro-choice candidates. If you're telling me that having them in that building doesn't matter, you're wrong. It's the start of them losing their grip. This is becoming a purple state. It will be a blue state demographically. So I started with the boring stories. I would like them to be boring stories. I would like for everybody to have a choice and not have their intellect and their decision questioned just because of their gender. I would like for everyone who chooses to become a parent in the state of Texas and anywhere on earth to have help navigating that process, to have support, to have a healthcare system that isn't fucking broken. Okay, in summation, follow the Texas Handmaids Facebook page where I post about legislation that you can call on rapid action in your state house. Number 2, please volunteer for pro-choice candidates, even if you think the Democratic Party is icky, because we got to use what we have. All we have is each other. Number 3, thank you for being out here baking in the Texas sun. You know how they get us locked out of this process is because women are holding up the fucking world. We are working. We are going home and working the second shift, taking care of our families, taking care of our aging parents, and taking care of our communities. Thank you all for being here, for all women who are out there doing that right now and wish they were here with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so our next speaker, he did arrive. Yay! It's our good doctor. So he is going to make his way up to the stage, and we are going to welcome... This is Dr. Gandhi. I did not want to say it wrong, so this is, sorry. Here you go.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all for being out here tonight. I have to say, I feel like we're out in front of this Capitol building every single month. Every single month. So it's nice to see all of you again. And we'll continue being out here as many months as it takes. Whether that's a Tuesday in the middle of the day, or a Wednesday, or a Sunday, or a weeknight, whatever it is, we're going to continue being out front. So with an open door, not too long ago, I had a complicated patient in my clinic. He had kidney and heart disease. He had recently suffered a stroke, and my role as his primary care physician was to shepherd him through his illness, was to coordinate with members of his care team, talk with specialists, ensure that he received gold standard, evidence-based care. All of this happened in open, without barriers. Yet if I have a woman who enters my clinic that is pregnant and would like counseling on all of her reproductive options, including abortion, I cannot even as much give her a handout that has the names of providers across this city without losing funding. Not even a handout. That is what the federal government wants to happen all across this country. That's the rule that the president passed. The president said that if you are here in a clinic, that's right, you do deserve choice. We all deserve choice. Basic health care for women, and by extension the right to privacy without government interference, is under attack and is being pushed behind closed doors. Behind closed doors. And it is behind these closed doors that 1 in 5 women will be raped at some point in their lives. It is behind a closed door that family members account for 1 in 3 cases of sexual abuse against children. And it is behind a closed dorm room that 1 in 4 college women will experience a completed and/or attempted rape. But through an open door, these adolescents, college students, and women have historically come to the health center and clinic network across this country to discuss their health and their body with their healthcare professional. Yet this year, behind the closed doors of Capitol buildings in Mississippi and Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Ohio, and Utah, mostly men have decided to place restrictions on women seeking access to basic health care, including abortions. These men have continued the war on women, bringing the battleground into our exam rooms, and in doing so, put women's lives at risk. A number of years ago, I had a young woman come to our clinic. She had multiple challenges. She had a history of miscarriage, problems with thyroid and diabetes, but she desperately wanted a child. We spent a year optimizing her medical issues so that she could get pregnant. And early in the first trimester, her OB sent over a report saying that there was a fetal anomaly that was incompatible with life. And in the exam room, my patient, with the counsel of her OB, decided, without the interference of the government, without the interference of untrained, non-medical state legislators in their ivory towers, my patient and her OB decided what the next best step would be for her and her family.
Yes, right.
So these past few years, we have seen the president and his party push for rules and laws meant to limit access to reproductive health care. It isn't just abortion. They want to limit access to contraception and counseling and insurance. This entire issue has never, ever been about choice. It is about undercutting the individual agency. It's about disenfranchising women, and it's about pushing women's health issues back behind those doors where they think women belong. And in doing so, the agenda has always been to weaken the personal liberties that are the foundation to prevent governmental interference in the private lives of Americans. And so to that, primary care doctors like me and doctors all across the nation say, hell no. Hell no! I will bring my stethoscope into every exam room every single day. You will never take that away from me or primary care doctors across this country. Never. And it's not just me. It's not just me. It's organizations that represent 500,000 doctors across this country. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Family Practitioners, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Across the country, these organizations that represent millions of doctors and medical students agree that we will never stand for this, that we have physicians that have practiced decades of medicine that has been informed by our education, training, and experience, and we should be able to practice without the threat of criminal punishment. And so for those mostly male state legislators that are hiding behind these doors, hiding behind these Capitol doors, who cannot imagine for a second the challenges faced by my patient, who cannot for one moment see their sisters and their wives and their daughters and the stories and the experiences of women in their districts, I ask of you, face your profound deficiency in empathy. It isn't too late. And for the mostly male lawmakers that are unable to face science and face medicine, who are unable to empathize, who feel it is too difficult to backtrack and to reverse your vote on these bans, let us help you out. Let the women and men rallying here today and across the country help you out. We will help you out by voting you out of office next November. That's how we're going to help you out. We will help you by voting you out of office, and we will send you to an early retirement next November behind your own closed door back at home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, y'all, it's hot out here, and because I'm a mom, I like to worry about things like that. So if anybody is getting overheated, we do have some medics up here at the front, so if you feel like you're getting a little overheated, please feel free to come up here. Also, because it's so hot up here, and these robes, y'all, they don't breathe. This poly cotton blend is not friendly in the heat. So we're gonna let the handmaids retire to the back in the shade. Thank you, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here and for standing in the heat. Some of you have on 2 robes, if you noticed. The robes that are donned in the black is the funeral garb, and that is actually in memoriam of the women who have died. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and let them wander off. Two by two. All right, we're gonna bring up Candace next. This Candace. All right.
Clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice if you can hear me. Clap 3 times if you can hear me. I just wanted to get your attention. I know we're at that point where things are kind of getting into a lull, and that's exactly where this movement cannot go ever again. We cannot continue to get riled up and then go into a lull and a sense of safety and security when we haven't won it all. We have got to stay vigilant. If we get Donald Trump out of office in 2020, are y'all gonna go home and say we won? No! Fuck no! Fuck no, because we will not have won our rights. Winning one position in a White House in DC doesn't win our reproductive rights. So I love you all, and I hope you will stay vigilant. I am Candace Saylor. I am a nurse, an activist.
She was at the Kavanaugh Bridge!
I was. The young speaker, Julia, this is her right here on my jacket. That's her mugshot from when we got arrested together. I'm also the pastor and minister of justice at the Anti-Fascism Non-Christian Church. Some of you may know about us. We protest a Christo-fascist organization that occupies Austin Independent School District every Sunday. And these issues are closely related, are they not? The same fascists that want to control, well, the uterus I used to have, also want to control who I go to bed with at night, even though I'm married to her. Those people are the people that need to hear from each and every one of you loud and clear that you're not okay with it. This is not the time for civility. This is not the time for, listening to both sides. If people are trying to oppress other people, they are fascists. They need to be shut the fuck down. So on that note, I am your token LGBTQIA. Thank you very much. I am going to say a few comments on that. Trans women are women. Trans men are men. Some lesbians and gay men don't have sex. They actually don't. Some of them have a lot of sex. All of it's fucking okay. Some people are intersex. If you don't know what it is, fucking Google that shit. Some bisexual people are married. They might be married to the same sex or the opposite sex, and it makes them no less bisexual. And all queer people have reproductive health care needs. That's about all I'm going to say on that. All right, Planned Parenthood. This is personal, y'all. Planned Parenthood saved my life. Thank you. Raise your hand if Planned Parenthood saved your life. That's a lot of hands. And you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, because I very much value personal autonomy. I was not diagnosed with HPV when I was in my early 20s, because I'm older than you think I am. They weren't testing for it. But I was diagnosed with a cervical dysplasia in my early 20s before I ever got pregnant with my first kid. And I didn't know what it was, but I trusted my doctors at Planned Parenthood because they weren't the only doctors I'd ever been to. I had a pediatrician, but God, the doctors at Planned Parenthood listened to me. They were so freaking cool. They didn't judge me if I told them I had more than one sexual partner in my early 20s. Hello? It's fine, ladies. It's fine, men. It's fine, gender non-binary people, to fuck around when you're young and figure shit out. Just, you know, try to do it safely, please. So I had a leap. I had a bunch of stuff that had to be done to my cervix through the years. I had children, 2 of them. Through all of that, I kept going back because those doctors that listened to me, because they were kind and conscientious, they got me to listen to them. Those doctors at Planned Parenthood encouraged me to continue to give a shit about what was happening to my body. I listened to them, I kept up with it, and ultimately I ended up having to have a hysterectomy at 45. I would have never known. I could have very easily ended up with cervical cancer, with a uterine cancer, with the things that were going on with my cervix. It's a really good chance that I would have died had I not been to Planned Parenthood if they weren't my primary care provider in my early 20s. The thing that freaks me out about how much I very much value that experience, and valued it even 15 years ago in 2014. What scares me is that 15 years ago, in 2004, I recently found this letter in my garage in a box full of documents. This is a letter from NARAL, Pro-Choice, Planned Parenthood, ACLU, Black Women's Health Imperative, Feminist Majority, National Latina Institute for Reproductive Health, and National Organization of Women. February 23rd, 2004, for the March for Women's Lives. I didn't go to it. I didn't even know they were having it. I fell asleep. We were about to elect Obama and I fucking fell asleep. Are y'all gonna fall asleep? No! Are y'all gonna assume if we killed a few bills this session that we're good? No! Fuck no. All right. I gotta say, I gotta read a couple lines from this, and I got a couple more things to say. I know you're probably gonna try to kick me off stage pretty soon. Says, sadly, most Americans simply do not know we stand on the brink. Hang on. Of losing fundamental rights which are central to women's health and freedom. They were telling us this in 2004. I don't want my daughters to have to figure out how to legally get their own health cared for, like in back alleys illegally. I'm terrified. I fumble over my words when I start getting really personal and thinking about my own daughters. Look, legislators that are doing this shit, yeah, a lot of them are men, and some of the women that are doing this, they're fucking clinicians. I've been a nurse in Texas for 20 years, almost 20 years. I don't understand how you can ethically advocate for an abortion ban, how you can ethically advocate to roll back women's access to health care, basic health care. The Texas Women's Health Plan, I wrote Texas Medicaid policy in this state as a medical policy nurse analyst. The rollbacks of women's health care that we were mandated to do by the state legislature, those are affecting basic women's health care, not just reproductive, access to abortion or access to birth control. Those things are part of a very huge picture, and all of it should be accessible to every fucking woman that wants it. We have an ethical obligation to give informed consent to the women of this state. They have the right to choose their own health care. Science is fucking science. Now, I'm going to end with two more things. A few years ago, I was a adult mentor for TEDx Youth at Austin, and we had a speaker that was a researcher at UT, and she did the coolest fucking thing, y'all. She made a heart cell beat in a petri dish by itself. Is that a fucking baby? No! And something that would be the size of a pea in the middle of the palm of my hand isn't a fucking baby either. I am a nurse. I have practiced in this state for 20 years, and I am telling you that a fetus that size is not viable. A heartbeat is cells responding to neurological whatever. It's not a life. I'm going to end with this, and I appreciate Julia calling me out for being on the bridge, because that was a fucking amazing experience. When Kavanaugh was appointed, we got really pissed off. And we didn't give a shit that it was ACL, that we were going to inconvenience a few Austinites and a few of the tourists that come here for music tourism. We cared about making sure that in that moment, with that much exposure, that a lot of people knew we were not okay with it. Women all across this country got themselves arrested that day. And some men. Some men joined us on that bridge as well. There's more than one person here today that was with me on that bridge. I don't know where she is, so I don't want to call her out. I know Julia's here. Anyway, my question is, and I'll close with this. What are you willing to do? Really? Whatever it takes.
I want a march!
All right. Are you willing to get yourself arrested? Think about these questions inside your head, okay? Take it home with you, because I need y'all to really seriously consider this. Are you willing to move to a different state? Yes. Are you willing to change your career path? Yes. Are you willing to disrupt a hearing? Yes. Are you willing to run for office? I know y'all are willing to donate. I know y'all are willing to march. Thank you. For God's sake, I hope y'all are willing to vote. For God's sake, or whatever sake, for the sake of the uteruses everywhere, I hope you're willing to vote. But what else are you willing to do? Will you get people out of jail if they're willing to get arrested? Will you take care of their kids if they go to prison? Because this is not Gilead. But the only way that we make sure it is not going to become Gilead is if people are willing to take real fucking risk. Please go home tonight. If you think of nothing else, start thinking about what you're willing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. Thank you so much. All right, I know it's hot. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna go home and we're gonna make sure that we're registered to vote. If you're not registered to vote, you're gonna find somebody who's a VDR and you're gonna get registered to vote. You may wanna go and become a VDR yourself, so look that up. You never know. All right, so I do have just a few more speakers here, and I do have Ariana and then Heather. Is that you? Yes, you're Heather. Okay, no, you're not Heather. Sorry. There is a Heather, a mom of twins, and she may or may not be here because she has twins. So, because kids. So Ariana, I'm going to hand it over to you. She's going to do a quick talk for us, and then we'll do one more. And then we've had several people come up and say that they want to speak. So, you know, we will open it up if you guys want to raise some hell, but also if you want to go inside and just raise some hell, that's fine too. So, okay, I'm going to hand this over.
God, look at all of you beautiful fucking people. Yes! Okay, so I'm going to talk about a personal experience that may be triggering to some of you, but it's my reality and it's something I lived through and overcame. So I wanted to be as open and candid as possible with all of you here supporting this absolutely amazing, wonderful cause. So, I was raised, I guess if you could call it that, by a man who thought I was his property, and he did with me whatever he felt he wanted to do at the time. And this flew under my mother's radar because he was a stay-at-home dad. So my mom didn't know anything that was going on. But when I was 7 years old, she had a stroke. And so all hope of her saving me from what he was doing was absolutely out the window. But his treatment of me impressed upon me that I was only as good as someone else said that I was, and that love meant completely submitting every part of myself and my body to the other person. So it wasn't until I was 15 years old that I finally stood up for myself. I had had enough of my father putting his hands on me, and I took a Greyhound bus and I left. And I went to... I left him in that small town in Lowell, Michigan, and went all the way to New York by myself, 15 years old. But that's where I met a boy. And at the age of 17, we started dating. And of course, those 15 years that my father had been, grooming me and breeding me was prime soil for this person to plant the seed that I was his property. I belonged to him, mind, heart, body, all of it. So, okay, this is the triggering part. I would go through cycles of violence with him. He would be very violent. He would force himself on me. And sometimes there would be consensual sex, but most of the time he would fight against me to make me stay underneath him until he was finished so he could impregnate me, because he wanted me tied to him for the rest of my life. And then when I would tell him, well, you've been successful, I am pregnant, he would demand that I get an abortion. I had the sense at the time that I was 17 to know that under those conditions of daily violence and rape and gaslighting and emotional abuse, that I could not bring a child into that world. I would be robbing him or her of a life that they deserved. So I did get an abortion, and it happened twice before I finally said, I'm done, and I did the right thing and stood up for myself and left him. But can you imagine being 17 years old, no support, no family, being on public assistance, and being forced into caring for a child, a baby, a fragile, vulnerable baby, and not having the choice to terminate that pregnancy? No. So well, today, probably because of what I've been through, I'm standing up for myself more easily than ever. I advocate for myself. It's like second nature. And now I want to advocate for those people who need a voice and can't advocate for themselves, right? So the thing is, these laws coming down the pipeline, though, they remind me of my father and that boyfriend. I mean, they want us to believe that we belong to them, and I say, hell fucking no! Hell no! I will not go back! We will not go back! Women are not second-class citizens. We are not objects to be controlled to satiate some desire or support and supplant a missing sense of self. We are human beings, and I'm asking you to say hell no with me, to stand up against the toxic patriarchy, against those who want to rip away our autonomy, and help those women, those girls who would be forced into pregnancy and carrying those children that they're not prepared to have.
Thank you. All right, it turns out Heather is here because twins. So, all right, so Heather is our last official speaker that we have on the list here, and I've had quite a few people come up and say that they're really inspired and they want to speak. So that is fantastic. But before you come up and speak, I want you to tell me what you're gonna do. I want you to tell this whole crowd what you're gonna do to help further this cause and help further this fight. So you guys can, if you wanna speak, come up and have a line. That'd be fine over here. And then I'm gonna hand this off to Heather.
Hi guys. I'm actually here to tell the story of a friend who unfortunately wasn't able to be here today. And I hope I'm able to live up to the energy and like amazing enthusiasm of some of our previous speakers, because they've been incredible. So my name's Heather Sneeman. I'm the twin mom, and my friend's name is Lori Post. And I think her story's powerful because it helps to show some of the collateral damage caused by bills like those that we've seen recently in Texas and beyond. Roughly 10 years ago, I'm going to read it from her perspective because that's how she wrote it. Roughly 10 years ago, I found out I was pregnant. We'd been trying for months upon months. I was so excited. We told our family and our friends, and I found an OB. We were new to Texas. I waited until my 12-week appointment, which is standard for prenatal care. At that appointment, the doctor could only find an egg sac, nothing else. Don't worry, she told me, maybe the dates were off. I'd been tracking, and I knew in my heart that was unlikely. She said to come back in 2 weeks and we'll check again. Well, 2 weeks later, there was still nothing. At what should have been 14 weeks, my body still had not realized it was not actually pregnant. After discussing options with my doctor and my husband, I opted to take pills to expel the contents of my uterus. It was awful, all of it. But what would have been more awful for me and my mental health is waiting for my body to do it naturally.
I had no doubt my mental health would have suffered had I not had the choice to take those meds. Under some of these bills, I would not have had that choice. I would be forced to wait until my body realized it was pregnant. Again, I was already at what should have been 14 weeks along with nothing happening. How long would it have gone? I would go on to have at least one, but likely 2 more miscarriages. I ask myself now what that experience would be like under laws like some of these states are trying to pass. Would I be considered suspect and under scrutiny? Would I have to undergo testing to prove that I wasn't causing them, these pregnancies that I so desperately wanted? Just as we got referred to a reproductive endocrinologist to explore fertility treatments, I got pregnant again and this one stuck. But under these potential laws, what becomes of things like IVF and other reproductive technologies? That's another can of worms. After I had my son, I opted for an IUD, one of the most effective forms of birth control. I knew I wanted another child, but living so far from family and all my support systems, I wanted to make sure I didn't get pregnant again right away. Under some of these laws, IUDs will be illegal and no longer an option. As I was welcoming my second child to the world, we strongly considered having my tubes tied. We were fairly certain we were done having children. Under current regulations, we found out we'd have to make sure both the doctor we used and the hospital we were delivering at would allow me to make that choice. After the birth of my second, I suffered intense postpartum anxiety. So intense, I was afraid to leave the house some days. Thankfully, I had access to health care and was able to get the help I needed. So many do not. This can have deadly results. This finalized our decision. We were done after 2 children. All of this to say, these devastating laws will, beyond a shadow of a doubt, have effects far beyond abortion. It is even more scary when we take into consideration our maternal mortality rate, lack of access to health care, paid leave, child care, and for many, access to basic needs. I have worked with teens and young adults, I've escorted at clinics, and I'm active in the birth and parenting community, and I can tell you that no one I have come into contact with has ever made reproductive decisions lightly. That's all she wrote. Thanks, y'all. Y'all better vote. Bring your friends to the polls. Sign people up. Do everything you can. If you have friends who are moms, they are busy and it's hard. You can watch their kids while they go inside and vote. Do what you gotta do.
Thank you. Thank you. She's a mother of twins. She made time, guys. She can do this. She can make time to go vote. So, okay, so that was the last of our scheduled speakers. I know it's hot, you guys, but we have a line of people who wanted to say just a few statements. So if you are interested in hanging out, that would be fantastic. If not, I totally understand if you want to get in there and raise some hell, try and visit your legislatures, or, you know, just kind of sit in and see what's going on in the gallery. So, Amy. God, I almost called you Nicole. All right, this is Amy. And Amy, what are you going to do to move this movement forward?
I'm going to run for election. Again. How many people here voted in the last school board election? Okay, that's not enough hands, you guys. So I ran for Board of Trustees in Bastrop County, just in the neighborhood, 35 miles away, and I lost by 110 votes, you guys. 29,000 registered voters, 1,200 showed up to the polls. Did you know that the state of Texas is still an abstinence-only sex education state? Abstinence only. Now you can choose to teach science-based sex education in Texas, but many of our rural counties do not teach science-based sex education. We have a crisis in our rural communities with ultra-conservatives sitting on our school boards teaching these children. We've got to change that, you guys. In the 50s, there was a concerted effort to put these people in these places on these small school boards. you know, Dallas, Austin, Houston, they've all changed. But what about our suburbs? What about our rural communities? We need to pay attention to these people so that they are not having their children with coat hangers in a closet. So please go out and vote. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, this is Mary. Mary, what are you going to do to further this cause?
I'm going to shut shit down. Because we can talk about voting all we want, we can talk about running for office all we want, but working class women don't have time to wait for the next election cycle, and working class and poor women are gonna die before the next election cycle because of this shit. Thousands of women in Austin just lost their access to health care because of SB 22. The Attorney General and Ken Paxton's personal vendetta against the only Planned Parenthood in Central Austin brought this shit up, and reactionary shitheads who live 200 miles away got to decide what poor women in Austin get to have. And even more than that, I want to say, probably controversially, this is more than Republican versus Democrat, and it's more than men versus women. Because rich women support anti-choice legislation, and rich people will always get to have abortions and have never had to rely on Planned Parenthood for their health care, for anything like that. Bills like this, legislation like this, plans like this is about keeping working class women and poor people in poverty forever. All right? This isn't stupidity. This isn't about them not understanding science. This is intentional. There's nothing like forced motherhood and lack of access to health care and high rents to make sure that poor people return to their shitty, low-paying jobs forever. So they have no other options and no chance to succeed, okay? And the U.S. government, frankly, exists to immiserate poor people and make rich people happy. That is a fact. We see that time and time again since the founding of the U.S. All right? And every good thing we can gain by electoral means can be ripped away or undermined. That is a fact. We passed Roe v. Wade, and 3 years later, the Hyde Amendment was passed, undermining that hard-won struggle that women had. All right? So basically, beyond that, women deserve more than a nonprofit that can be defunded by some reactionary from 200 miles away. They deserve more. We deserve more than something that can just be taken away. And I've heard a lot of people talk about our obscene and terrible maternal mortality rate, especially for black women, and that's not a coincidence. That is the natural product of privatized healthcare. They are more likely to be poor and more likely to live in neighborhoods where it's not profitable to have healthcare opportunities, okay? That's not magic. That is the intended